Kyle Larson leads the playoff grid as the only driver with 4 wins this year. Big name driver Kyle Busch is at a huge risk of missing this year's postseason. Let's break down NASCAR's playoff grid with 4 races remaining. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about this year's current playoff grid with only 4 races remaining in the regular season until we will set the 16 driver playoffs. We'll take a look at some regular season standings as well, and we'll take a look at what my championship 4 picks are, looking at everything right now. We have a lot to discuss, a lot to break down, and let's go ahead and get on into it. So before I actually bring up that playoff grid, I do want to mention the regular season standings. So here's the list here. You see Kyle Larson leading with 749 points after the first 22 races of the season. And the reason, it's a close battle, right? Chase Elliott's only down 10 points, and then Tyler Reddick's only down 15 points. That's just 2 stages, right? I mean, that's not even a full race where this could shake up. If Kyle Larson has an issue early, Chase Elliott gets some stage points, Tyler Reddick gets some stage points. Certainly that could tie it up. Could make it close and could give Chase Elliott the lead. This has swapped a bunch over the last few weeks. Denny Hamlin at 43 points back. It's looking like he's not going to be able to catch up to get it. You never say never, right? I mean, some issues could happen with those top 3 drivers, and Denny Hamlin could go on a really good run these last 4 weeks to tighten it up and make it a 4-car battle. But really, I just see it right now as those top 3, and then, of course, Ryan Blaney, Byron, and those will be racing for whatever points position they can get moving forward. And the reason that's big is because you look on the far left of this screen, I have the playoff points, which is how many you would receive per round if you finished in the position that they currently are. So Kyle Larson would receive 15 extra points going into each round of the playoffs, right? So if you make it to all 3 rounds, that's 45 bonus points in the playoffs. Same thing with Chase Elliott currently in second. If he was to finish second in the regular season standings, he would receive 10 bonus points per round, so 30 points, right? Then it goes to 8 for third place, down 7, 6, 5, all the way down to 1. So yes, winning that regular season championship is really important, and it's worth getting for those 5 points, which could equal 15 if you make it to the third round. But it's also important to finish in the top 10, right? I mean, it's important to get every point you can throughout the entire season. That's why I like the way the playoffs are set up, because it's designed right now, I think, to where every point really does matter. Because when we first introduced this playoff system in 2014, it was really just win and you're in. I think there was maybe a 3 bonus point cushion is what you would get. You would get 3 bonus points per win for a while. But now those bonus points really do add up with the stages, with where you finish in the regular season, and the wins for those bonus points, encouraging you to get more wins. So certainly a lot of extra points on the line going into the playoffs. But let's go ahead and bring up the playoff grid itself. And you see Kyle Larson's also on top of this, despite missing the Coca-Cola 600, which is ironically the highest points paying event of the season, that and the Daytona 500. But Kyle Larson does lead the playoff grid. He's the only driver right now with 4 wins. I look at Denny Hamlin with 3 wins this year in second. Man, really tough, because he could have had maybe 5 or 6 wins right now if things had went right. But Denny Hamlin certainly looking strong right now with 3 wins. Byron also with 3. But Byron hasn't won a race in quite some time. He has not won since Martinsville back in April. So he won the Daytona 500. That's a big deal for any team, right? Huge Daytona 500 win. That's the Super Bowl of NASCAR, essentially. So big win for him there. Then one at the road course at Circuit of the Americas, and then one at a short track in Martinsville. So ironically, 3 very different racetracks, but all of those different types of racetracks, not those tracks particularly, but those types of tracks, road course, big drafting track, and then of course a short track is in the playoffs, so certainly an advantage there for William Byron. We'll see if he's been saving stuff this summer for the playoffs. It'd be interesting to see, because I haven't seen a whole lot of speed lately out of William Byron, sort of in a little mid-season slump, which we've seen multiple times with William Byron in the summer stretch. So we'll certainly have to keep an eye on that. Christopher Bell with 3 wins as well. Christopher Bell it's just been an inconsistent year for him, and not even entirely because of him. Just he wins the race at New Hampshire. He won earlier this year at Phoenix, a short track type of racing guy. Won in the rain at New Hampshire too, which was big. I do want to throw that in there. But certainly I'd say an upsetting year for Christopher Bell, right? I mean, he's 8th in the regular season points, but a lot of points given up with those wrecks in the month of April and May that weren't really his fault. So just a frustrating season right now, I think, for Christopher Bell. Good thing is I'm not worried about him getting frustrated. I think he can overcome everything, but I just want to throw that in there that he could be way higher. Could have had a potential to race for more wins, but has been taken out so early in a lot of races this year. I mean, 5-6 races this season, it's still with a high chance to make it into the postseason, far into the postseason. Once again, Christopher Bell's made it to the Final Four 2 years in a row. He's going for 3 Final Four appearances in a row with Adam Stevens, the crew chief that made it into the championship 5 times in a row with Kyle Busch when this new playoff system was sort of first implemented. And then, of course, you have Ryan Blaney with his 2 wins as well on a momentum stretch right now, really quick right now. It seems like he's pushing in the right direction. Had a little bit of struggle at the start out the year, but now him and that whole Penske Ford team is certainly back up to par. Chase Elliott with 1 win, another one of those drivers. He's been so consistent this season. That's why I like Chase Elliott. Once again, he might win the regular season championship, which would be those 15 bonus points, but certainly Chase Elliott with 1 win right now is big. Tyler Reddick with 1. Keselowski with the win at Darlington. Alex Bowman with the big win at the Chicago Road Course. Certainly that was a big deal for him. Joey Logano, big win as well. Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric. When I look at Daniel Suarez and Austin Cindric, who are on the right side of this playoff grid, that's really what shakes this grid up a lot because they have not had a solid season at all. Daniel Suarez, really rough year, not been getting results. Even worse for Austin Cindric. I don't even think Austin Cindric's top 20 in the regular season points, but with the win, that jumps you into the playoffs and pushes a few people out. So with those 2 winners, it certainly jumbles things up a little bit. It knocks guys like Briscoe and Wallace out that would otherwise be in if those 2 didn't have wins. Martin Truex Jr., once again, he's safe in the playoffs. I mean, he's, 108 points in with 4 races to go. He should be good. Not only that, he's over 50-something points above 14th place. I'm not concerned about Martin Truex Jr. missing the playoffs at all. If there is another winner this season, I would expect it to be Martin Truex Jr., right? Ty Gibbs, 42 points in, lost a cushion. A couple of engine failures in a row, a couple of wrecks throughout the summer. Just a bad stretch right now for Ty Gibbs, which was looking to be a really solid second season, but sort of getting into one of those, maybe pulling a William Byron, a midsummer slump right now for Ty Gibbs. So I'm concerned right now because momentum is not on that 54-team side to get Ty Gibbs' first playoff appearance. So it'll certainly be interesting to see what happens. We have Chris Buescher only 17 above now. Ross Chastain only 7 points above after 2 disastrous weeks. Obviously, you had the crash, and then the last week, you had the crash at Pocono, and then last week just was not in Indianapolis, just was not fast at all, just had no speed, couldn't really do a whole lot. And then that puts Bubba Wallace at only 7 points out, who has had a couple of good weeks, right? Got stage points last week in Brickyard, or a couple of weeks ago at the Brickyard, and then, of course, actually finished in the top 10. Once you get past that, I mean, I see concerns for Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Todd Gilliland. They're going to have to win a race to get in. The concern for me is the races coming up, right? Because if you get another winner, that driver could be, Ross Chastain could be knocked out, or whoever's in 16th. So if I'm any of these drivers, which goes from 14th Ty Gibbs down to Bubba Wallace in 17th, I want to be 15th, right? I mean, that's what I'm aiming for, because if somebody gets Kyle Busch could always get a win, right, at a Michigan or even a Richmond where he's won multiple times before, but has showed speed there in the past, in recent memory, in a calendar year. Kyle Busch finished 3rd at Richmond last summer, was very fast, has been very fast at Michigan, and tracks like Michigan in the past. Kyle Busch could go out there and get a win. Remember, Kyle Busch has won for 19 straight seasons. He can make it 20. Kyle Busch is certainly no doubt can go out there and find a win somewhere, especially with Daytona looming on the calendar. So I want to be 15th, right? Because if you get that other winner, it shoots 16th down below to 17th if that winner's below the cut line. So certainly the fight for 15th is real. So Ty Gibbs trying to stay in the top 15. You have Buescher trying to stay in the top 15 as well, and then you have Chastain currently below, and he's actually a little bit at fear for going below the cut line even without a new winner. But with Daytona looming, right? I mean, you have Richmond, a track we're trying new tire compounds for the first time, soft, hard tires, something we've never done before. That could produce a surprise winner. We don't know what else kind of strategy will be thrown into that. Then we go to Michigan, a huge 2-mile oval, super high, fast speeds. You don't know what could happen there. But then Daytona is really just where there's so much uncertainty, where a driver or a team that has not made the playoffs yet, has not won, is having a rough season, could win a race. I mean, I look at Todd Gilliland for front row. I look at Michael McDowell for the same team, right? Those two are very strong at those types of racetracks. They could win that race and get into the playoffs at Daytona. I even look at a driver like maybe a Corey LaJoie or a Carson Hocevar that's had a sort of a rough season but have talent, could go out there and win. We've seen Corey LaJoie run up front at Atlanta before. No doubt he could do it at a track like Daytona. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in these last 4 races moving forward. Bubba Wallace also solid at that track. He could try to move himself up in. So certainly interesting there. But Kyle Busch is really just, I want to mention Kyle Busch for a second because just a concern, right? I mean, he's never missed the 16 driver playoffs. That started in 2014. He's never missed the 16 driver playoffs. It would certainly be disappointing for him. But really looking at it, I think his last chance might be that Daytona race, right? I mean, sure, he could go out there, use strategy at Richmond, could win at Michigan. He's won at tracks like that before at Auto Club and showed speed there last year as well. But just so much inconsistency from that team. It's going to be hard to get a win at a track other than a Daytona-style racetrack. So certainly should be fun to watch. And then we'll have to continue to monitor it moving forward. That's really it. That's all there is I want to talk about following the points. I do want to mention what my current Final Four is. I want to predict my championship four. I have Kyle Larson right now just because I believe if he wins that championship, that regular championship, he'll have so many bonus points, it'll almost be a guarantee for him unless he absolutely, blows up in the playoffs, which I don't expect to happen with Cliff Daniels. I have Denny Hamlin in. I do think Denny Hamlin will finally make it to the championship four instead of, giving an interview on pit road at Martinsville about how he didn't make it in like we see every year, that annual interview where he missed the cut to make it to the championship four. I don't think we'll see that. And then, of course, you have Ryan Blaney. I do think the defending champ will get on a roll again. It seems like he can find ways to just get these boost of momentum and make championship runs, which is what got him a championship a year ago. And then I think William Byron will make his second championship four appearance in a row as well. I think they might be holding off something for the playoffs. They have a lot of speed. They're good at a variety of racetracks. I think they can make it. But that's it, really all there is to talk about. All I want to discuss following the points. I'll obviously do a Richmond race analysis. I'm going to try to be in attendance for that race. Don't know for sure if I'll be able to go, but I'll certainly try to make that race. But that's it. All there is to talk about. And of course, about Kyle Busch. Looking at Daytona looming on the calendar. Let's get rowdy.